Good afternoon. I'll call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Anybody have any April Fool's jokes? First, this is a meeting of Fargo Planning Commission. First item, approval of the order of agenda. Items 1A, B, C, Broadway Commons Addition plat zone change and planned unit development at 1004, 1014, and 1024 Broadway North, and 1013 and 1017 7th Street North has been withdrawn by the applicant. No action will be taken by the commission today. And then Commissioners Brown Bag will either be on Tuesday, April 15th or Wednesday, the 16th during noon. Topic will be to overview staff processes once applications come in to planning. We'll overview that process. So look for an email, and we will not have it if we don't have a supermajority. So look for that email. And any questions on changes of the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approve the order of agenda.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Those by signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. Moving on to the minutes of the regular meeting of March 4th, 2025 minutes. Everybody had a chance to look. Any changes or discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion approves. Now we're going to move on to public hearing items. Again, 1A, B, and C have been withdrawn. That was the Broadway Commons Edition. Moving on to 2A and 2B, presented by Donald Kress, and that's Brecky's 64th Avenue Edition.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Donald Kress with the Department of Planning and Development. As the chair has stated, our first item here is Brecky 64th Avenue Edition. As you may recall, this is continued from the March 4th agenda at the direction of your commission. There were a few things that you wanted the applicant to review. So we'll include that in our presentation here. And the applicant and his project engineer are also here and will probably address the changes that you had requested. This project is located on 64th Avenue North. This is just east of the big water tower here that says Fargo on one side and Cass Rural Water on the other, University Drive. Property looks about like this. There's a house on each of the two properties once. One has been demolished. One is still there. Just taking a look at the site. There is a shared use path that runs down the west side and around the back. We'll look at that more in a moment here. Here's that shared use path, and your commission, one of the directions your commission gave at the last planning commission was to have a connection with that shared use path to the subdivision, and that has been depicted on the applicant's revised graphic here. The lower photo here is about the location of where that connection would be. And again, here's some just general shots of 64th Avenue there, both sides. Current zoning is SR2. The proposed zoning is SR4. The main goal here is to get the lot sizes and setbacks for that. So the applicant did provide a revised plat, and this is what was a laydown item that you received here on your dais this afternoon. You can't really tell much difference, and Mr. Pattengale, the project engineer, can go into more detail, but they did find a way to put a sidewalk around the edge of the private drive, as your commission had directed them to look at. And to do so, they had to slightly adjust the lot lengths. So I think the three rows of lots on the east are 2 feet shorter, and the one on the west is 6 feet longer. Again, Mr. Pattengale can go into that in detail. So same layout, just slightly moved over a little bit to accommodate that sidewalk. Here again, there's a lot of lines on that plat, there's a lot of lines on this plat, but just to give you an idea that the blue is the private drive and access easement. The sidewalk is not depicted on this, that's just the outline of the private drive and access easement and the individual lots, of which there are 30. This graphic shows, provided by the applicant, shows how they're going to have that sidewalk, which is the gravelly colored stretch here, go all the way around the development. And then this sidewalk here shows the connection to the shared use path. That is actually outside of the plat. That'll be created by a separate agreement. The applicant is working with the city to get an easement across that. The city actually owns the property. The Park District maintains the trail, the shared use path. But and then the applicants will, or the maintenance staff of the subdivision will maintain that sidewalk, since that really serves them. It's not, the Park District won't do that. And they've been in discussion with the Park District too, just to clarify that situation. Here is a cross-section of the private drive that shows the sidewalk. And another reason that the lots were moved over a little bit was one of the things your commission talked about in the last meeting was having a full 20 feet between the sidewalk and the closed garage door, so you could park a full-size vehicle there. That was a concern of your commission. And again, the applicant can talk about that a little further. As noted in your packet there, we did get some questions and comments about the subdivision. There are 3 emails included in there in your packet, and there may be some neighbors here today who want to testify as well. Planning staff's recommendation continues to be for approval here, as stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. Mr. Brian Pattengale of Houston Engineering and Mr. Mike Brecky, the property owner and developer, are with us this afternoon and may wish to address the commission. And again, there may be some neighbors who want to address the commission as well. Thank you, commissioners. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thanks, Donald. Commissioners, any question for Donald? No questions for staff. Let's go ahead and invite the applicant up. State your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brian Pattengale with Houston Engineering. Coming back from the continuation of last month, we went back and looked at the main concern of pedestrian connectivity with the site. So with some slight modifications and coordination with the city, we narrowed up the street a little bit. If you remember before, last time we had about a 26-foot street. We're down to about a 23-foot, so it's a little narrower, but we had to kind of come up with some space for that sidewalk. So what we propose is putting that sidewalk along the outside of the private street to sort of create a nice U-shaped, gives everybody access. It's a standard 4.5-foot sidewalk, so it's the same width as your standard residential sidewalk the city has. And then we also added that connection to the south and the multi-use path there. That is outside the plat boundary, but we've been talking with the city to secure an easement on the city property to allow for that connection point there. In addition to the pedestrian connectivity with the, before we had 20 feet, so to maintain that parking ability within front of the garage spaces, what we wound up doing was on the eastern 3 sort of rows of our homes, what we did is we revised the home footprint a little bit to shrink the footprint a little bit. And as a result, we shrunk those lots, and basically took some of that space that we, from those lots, put them on the west lot to say we can have that same footprint that we kind of planned for, give a little more variety to the units of that can be proposed in the lots, but still giving us that 20-foot of driveway between the, either the back of walk or the back of curb to provide that parking in front of the garage. So, like I say, it's hard to tell in the plat 'cause it's a small shift, but it is there. Like I said, we think we've addressed all the concerns, especially the pedestrian connectivity and also the parking, while still maintaining the access and sort of the overall plan we initially had with the plan and development. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Pattengale?
I have a question, just for clarification. The sidewalk is right up against the curb, so there's no boulevard between the curb and
Correct.
sidewalk, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Go ahead and open up public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? Anybody wish to speak? Let's go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners?
I guess I'll start. I just want to say, first of all, thank you for responding to our concerns. I think that, you're limited in what you can do, right? There's not a lot of land area there. You're trying to do a lot with a smaller area, but I think the way that you're solving it is a decent solution, and I think you substantially made the development substantially better. So I really do appreciate that thoughtful response.
Do I have a motion?
Well, I'll move approval as staff recommended.
A second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion, commissioners? All righty.
I just have one comment about many cities, in order to save money, and somewhat, how shall we say, without a great deal of enthusiasm, put sidewalks right up against the curb without a boulevard. And that is generally a terrible solution, because on a street, to have a pedestrian sidewalk right up against the curb means you're too close to traffic. But this is a difficult site, and I just want to say from my perspective that to have a sidewalk here at all along the private street is an improvement. This is not a solution that I would ever recommend on a public street. So just to make sure that at least my own view is that this is certainly an exception to what we'd normally approve.
Anyone else? Okay. Jody, you want to take the roll?
Georgie,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Mose,
Yes.
Shuey,
Aye.
Glidey,
Aye.
Cecil,
Aye.
Betlock,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Tassa.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to item 3. We have Chelsea presenting for Simonson Company's 4th edition.
Good afternoon, Chelsea Leverson with the Department of Planning and Development. Agenda item 3 is Simonson Company's 4th edition. It is a minor subdivision. It's located at 3971 53rd Avenue South and 5237 38th Street South. For your reference, the 52nd Avenue Walmart is right here. Here we have a few photos of the site. The first one is facing west from 38th Street South. You can see Happy Harry's and the Valvoline right here. And the second photo is looking northeast from the Valvoline parking lot. In the far distance, you can see Starbucks and Walmart. The property is currently zoned LC, limited commercial, with a conditional overlay. The conditional overlay proposes higher design standards, separates vehicle and pedestrian traffic, and prohibits some uses. No zone change is being proposed, and the conditional overlay will carry through. So the applicant is requesting a minor subdivision. It is a replat of Lot 2, Block 1, Simonson Company's 3rd, and Lot 1, Block 1, Simonson Company's 2nd, to be titled Simonson Company's 4th edition. This subdivision will consist of 2 lots, 1 block. There is an existing negative access easement along 52nd Avenue South and 38th Street South. A private roadway along the south of the subdivision will provide access to the site. Staff has not received any inquiries on this property. And staff's recommendation is for approval as stated in the staff report and shown on the screen. The applicant's representative, Danielle of Lowry Engineering, is here if you have any questions for her. Thank you. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Chelsea. Any questions for Chelsea, commissioners?
I have one. Are you guys planning on putting in a light at 53rd Avenue and 38th? I can personally attest to coming out of Walmart is a complete nightmare trying to turn left heading towards Sports Center, anything like that. This being a gas station, most likely it's going to draw additional traffic to try to cross that large thing. Is there intents for a light at that section?
Sure. So today there is not a warranted need for a light at that point, but that's something we continue to monitor and complete traffic counts. And if there is a warrant for that intersection in the future, that's when we'd consider installing one.
Okay, but there's no plans currently.
Not as we sit today.
Okay. All right.
Would that intersection be a right in, right out kind of application? Because I agree, I'm unfortunately inhabit that Starbucks a little too often, but it is really problematic at certain times of day, trying
It
to
is
take a
terrible.
left turn, and, I mean, it's concerning.
Yeah, 53rd Avenue will always remain the full intersection with 38th Street, but yeah, I'll have a conversation with traffic engineers, see when the last time we've done our traffic counts are and if we need to update that
Thank you.
analysis.
And that's where that pedestrian was killed recently, right? 53rd?
Yes, that is correct.
Any other questions for staff, commissioners?
The access off of 38th, that's the existing one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? We'll invite the applicant up.
I'm Danielle from Lowry Engineering. I think Chelsea covered everything that we had, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any question for the applicant? I guess we don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and open up public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? Anybody wish to speak? Seeing none, let's go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners?
Move to approve based on staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? No? Let's go ahead and take the roll.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Betlock,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Cecil,
Aye.
Shui,
Aye.
Mose,
Aye.
Glidey,
Aye.
Georgry,
Aye.
Tasa.
Aye, motion passes. Now moving on to agenda item 4, we're on Golden Valley 6th edition, still with Chelsea.
All right, so agenda item 4 is Golden Valley 6th edition. It is a request for a zone change. The property is located at 6788 27th Street South. It is just northwest of Davies High School. Here are a couple site photos of the property. The top photo is facing south from 27th Street, and the bottom is looking at the property from the east. The property is currently zoned SR4, single dwelling residential, which allows for a maximum density of 12.1 units per acre. The lot size is 9/10 of an acre and would currently allow 10 units to be built. The applicant is requesting a zone change to SR5, single dwelling residential, which allows for a maximum density of 14.5 units per acre. If granted the zone change, the applicant would be permitted to build up to 13 units on this lot. The applicant has provided a preliminary site plan proposing 11 residential units, shown right here. The applicant's preliminary proposal is similar to an existing property located here on the corner of 65th Avenue and 28th Street South, just a couple blocks north of this subject property. That property is approximately the same size. It is zoned SR5 and it also provides 11 residential units. There's a picture of that existing development shown up here. Staff did receive one inquiry, which is provided in your packets. And staff's recommendation is for approval, which is stated on the screen as well as in your staff report. We have Brian Pattengale the applicant's representative here if you have any questions for him. Otherwise, thank you. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thanks, Chelsea. Commissioners, any questions for Chelsea?
Are there any other examples of this kind of density within a, low-density, single-family neighborhood that's not on a major road, I guess?
I guess the closest one is the one that's a couple blocks away from this property. So the 6788 is 0.9 of an acre, and the one on the corner of 65th and 28 is 0.88. And that one was previously rezoned to SR5. This was the closest example that I could find. I'm sure Donald might know of a couple.
Commissioner, when those properties were platted, those extra large lots were platted with the idea that there would be probably something larger than just single-family development on them at the time.
So it appears as though this backs though to, I think it's SR2 zoned, single-family homes, is that correct? Just to the south of it?
These are all zoned SR4.
Okay.
no, to the
Oh, I'm
Not
sorry,
to
to
the
the south, yes, below 69th Avenue, yes, SR2.
Okay. And there's no issues or any kind of communication from those neighbors that has had any kind of a negative view or anything like that?
Not that we received.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Chelsea? Okay, do we have questions for Mr. Pattengill? Do you want to add anything? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and open up public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, let's go ahead and close public hearing. Commissioners,
I'll move to accept staff findings.
we have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, go ahead and take the roll.
Betla,
Aye.
Georgie,
Aye.
Cecil,
Aye.
Mose,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Glidey,
Aye.
Shuey,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Tassa.
Aye, motion passes. Moving on to item 4, Goldman subdivision with Luke.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Item 5 on your agenda is Goodman subdivision. This is located at 3501 Main Avenue and 3511 Main Avenue. If you follow my cursor on the screen, the east is the 3501 property, and then the west is the 3511. And then for some extra context, we have Main Avenue, the frontage road is just on the north side of it. I-29 is a little further to the west. The railroad is directly abutting on the north side of the subject properties. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit, CUP, for an alternative access plan to allow shared parking and reduced parking in GC General Commercial Zone on lots 15 through 17 Goodman subdivision. Both of these site photos are taken from the south side of the frontage road. So on the top, we're looking northeast, and then on the bottom, we're looking northwest. And just a correction from the staff report, I believe I labeled one of the existing uses as vacant, but as you can see, it's kind of a shed retail sales, which that use will be moved according to the applicant due to the proposed development. The zoning is GC, general commercial, and no zone changes proposed. Here's the preliminary site plan for your reference. The red outline shows the subject properties for this CUP specifically. Again, 3501 is on the east side, and then 3511 is on the west. The applicant is proposing one new building on the east property with 10 new parking spaces. And then the applicant will be removing some pavement that's currently encroaching into the public right-of-way, accounting for parking lot buffers within the scope of work of this project. So you can kind of see that on the bottom, some symbols for the plantings, as well as additional green space. And with this work, 109 spaces will be existing and 10 new spaces are proposed. So the specific LDC requirements for the existing and proposed religious institution, and retail sales and service uses. Requires a total of 148 parking spaces, and 119 are proposed. So that's a reduction of 29 spaces, or I believe 19%. Here's the table from the parking narrative, which is provided in your packet, which goes into more detail, but in general, this table displays the offset hours of operation for each use. The numbers shown here are the parking spaces required by the LDC for each business while it is open. Ultimately, the highest demand of any point of the week is 90 parking spaces, or 90 required spaces. With this analysis, the City of Fargo's traffic engineer determined the reduction is sufficient based on the differing hours of operation between the existing and proposed uses. Staff has received no comments in response to this application. The recommended motion is on the screen and in your staff report. Staff finds that all criteria are met and are recommending approval with these conditions shown. The project representative, Brad Garcia, is here to answer any questions. And one last note for CUPs is that the Planning Commission is the final decision maker. Any appeal of the Planning Commission decision goes to City Commission, and pursuant of LDC Section 20-0903, appeals of the final decisions must be filed within 10 days of the date of the decision. So that concludes staff's presentation. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke. Commissioners, any questions for Luke? Seeing none. Any questions for Mr. Garcia or the applicant? No? You're good? Okay, let's go ahead and open up public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? Seeing none, let's go ahead and close public hearing. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
If I'm reading the drawings that were up a little bit ago, it looks like landscaping is going to be installed from the lot also to the west along Main under this application, correct?
Right. At least the parking lot buffers will be accounted for, just because currently it's all, or at least close to all of it, is kind of impervious concrete or the building. So they'll be reducing some of the pavement and adding some of the landscaping. You can kind of see it from the aerial imagery as well. It's kind of all pavement up to the curb through the property line.
I think it's going to be a remarkable improvement when we start to see some of that landscaping showing up, because it is a very kind of brisk, I don't know what the right word is. It needs some softening, it needs some buffering, and I think the landscape will go a really, really long ways. So it'll be exciting to start to see that implemented, continuously. Thank you.
Any other questions, or do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
We have approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Approval and a second. Any discussion? Comments? Okay, let's go ahead and take the roll.
Glidey,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Mose,
Aye.
Georgery,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Betlock,
Aye.
Cecil,
Aye.
Shuey,
Aye.
Tassa.
Aye, motion carries. Donald's gonna come up on the next 3 items. They're all pretty similar. What he'll do is he'll probably give an introduction and how the similarities of the 3 are. We'll vote on them all separately, but he'll give an intro on them all in the beginning.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So as the chair has stated, our next 3 items are conditional use permits for telecommunications support structures, which are commonly referred to as cell phone towers, but our ordinance uses that term TSS. These conditional use permit is required because each one is proposed is over height for the zone it's in. And our ordinance, the Land Development Code, allows conditional use permits or requires conditional use permits for cell towers that exceed the heights that are allowed by right in the individual zones. So all 3 are from the same applicant, AT&T. They're represented here by Mr. Hugh Bialka of Terra Consulting, who came up from Minneapolis this morning and beat the snow. And also Mr. Scott Casper, which is an AT&T engineer. He's in Fargo here. There's a little different than the CUPs for TSSs that we've done in the past. There actually have not been that many in the past several years. There's both a temporary and a permanent TSS. And so your CUP will, if you would approve the CUP, that would approve both of them, and then staff will deal with the internal permitting on that. So the temporary one will be up. It'll overlap a bit with the permanent one, and perhaps Mr. Bialka can indicate how long that overlap would be. I think your staff report says it would be around 45 days. He might have a little better number than that for you. Two of the properties are owned by the Fargo Park District. One property is zoned PI, Public Institutional, and one is zoned LI, Limited Industrial. One property is owned by NDSU. It's zoned PI. And there are, when you look in your staff report, there's two sets of findings for each TSS. There's the general findings, and then there are some zone-specific findings. And if you look at the ones for the TI and the ones for the ones for the LI and the ones for the PI are different. So if you look at your staff reports going, why don't they all look the same? That's why. Again, the CUP here is only for the land use. Site plan is provided, and that's a pretty good location on that, but there might be some slight adjustment to that. You did receive a revised site plan here today for the Mickelson Field one. That's item 6. That was done as a result of discussion with staff. There is, as you may know, there are flood control levy, and there are some city utilities in there. And the original site plan, in conversation with planning and engineering staff, AT&T engineers moved it over a little bit to the west. It's about 29 feet to the west. So there might be still some minor variation there. Approval of the CUP is not approval of a building permit. So when the time comes to install these towers, they will still have to go through the city inspections building permit process. And on the Park District properties, they will also have to coordinate with the Park District. And actually today we have with us Mr. Tony Schmidt from the Fargo Park District. He's the Parks Director. He is not making any presentations, but Mr. Schmidt is here as a resource in case your commission would have any technical questions about the park facilities or operations on those sites that are theirs. So that's how they're all related. They all seem similar, but they're all a little bit different. So we will start with the first one here, is the Mickelson Fields edition. Commissioner, do you have any questions before we get rolling here?
Any questions overall? Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So the Mickelson Fields edition, conditional use permit. So this is located here. You've probably all been by this here. It's Mickelson Field, Jack Williams Stadium here. This is Oak Street along the river here in North Fargo. Here's some photographs of the site for the permanent TSS. You're standing on 11th Street. Here's the levee. There's a building here that I believe is used as a concession stand and warming house and some other park uses. And then here's the ball field here. So you're looking southeast, condominiums are on the south side. And then here you're on Oak Street looking east. Again, here's that building. And then for the temporary site, that's going to be installed, basically parked on this city recycling site, which is also within the Mickelson Field Park. It's going to be in here. Again, standing on, there's a little road, access road here. That's what that's going to look like. And then, again, facing easterly from Oak Street, it's going to be in here. The zoning here is, I said, PI, Public Institutional. And these are the site plans for the TSSs here, the temporary one here, again, in that recycling center. And that'll look about like this. It's basically they call it a ballast mount. I believe it's basically a trailer mounted unit. Mr. Bialka can go into that in more detail. And then this is the new site plan that you received here. So you've got a lease area here of 30 by 30 feet. There's the tower and its associated ground equipment that go there. This is Oak Street coming in this access road, this private road. There's that building we looked at. There's a playground here that's going to remain. Ball field is going to remain. And there's the tower there. These indications, these towers, or these antenna indicated here, one of the requirements of our ordinance is that co-location be allowed for at least one other set of antennas on any tower. And so that's just indicating that those are there. That requirement has been met. Our cell tower ordinance is a very detailed ordinance, as you see in the nature of your findings there. There are some separation distances that are required that this tower has met with the proposed location. Even the slightly revised location meets that. Separation from towers. The only other nearby tower is the one in Jack Williams Stadium, and that's over a quarter of a mile away, so that one meets that separation distance. Here's some photo simulations provided by the applicant. Show the before and after here. Again, there's that building that we're looking at here. That's for these are just for the permanent tower. And then here is looking from Oak Street down the street here. This is the before, and then this is the after. So the tower will be 120 feet. Yeah, plus the lightning rod. So 120 feet tall, which the maximum allowed in the PI zone with the conditional use permit is 125 feet. So they're within the limit on the tower. And those light poles, I believe, for the sake of comparison, Mr. Schmidt said they were about 60 or so feet tall. Is that right, Tony? Okay. So just as a comparison, that's how tall those would be. Going back here. Oh, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. Not that look familiar. And so staff's motion for approval is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. Again, Mr. Bialka is here from representing AT&T. We also do have some representatives from the neighborhood here. We've gotten a number of calls. We've had some correspondence and phone calls back and forth with the neighbors explaining that. We did notify the Horseman Neighborhood Association. This isn't the Horseman neighborhood. So there might be some folks here who wish to testify as well, ma'am. Thank you. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thanks, Donald. Commissioners, any questions for Donald?
Are there any specific required landscaping requirements for this kind of build?
Not beyond what any structure would require. And the Park District, I believe, does have some requirements of their own. That is, they would work that out separately with the applicant. The applicant would apply through our building permit process. Park District is not part of that, but they'd have to work that out with the applicant as well. We try to coordinate with them.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
In a previous hearing for a tower on University, there was discussion around design standards and the aesthetic appearance of that tower. Are there any requirements for design standards for this type of tower?
No, sir, there's not for this. This is just a straightforward monopole.
And it looks like is it just a chain link fence that kind of,
They would, yeah, we would generally have an opaque fence. I believe they were going to at least slat that fence. There might be some additional requirements from the Park District on that.
okay.
Maybe I'll go ahead and invite the applicant and they can talk about the surrounding.
Sure, and I believe Mr. Bialka has a presentation there.
Sure.
And if you need any slides from mine here.
Thanks, Donald.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Hello, my name is Hugh Bielka. I'm the telecommunications site development agent that was responsible for finding the 3 site locations, including the Mickelson Field area, working on behalf of AT&T. Just some additional context to provide for these tower sites. These are priority sites for AT&T as an initiative through their FirstNet emergency response systems coverage. And so they'll be bolstering and improving their coverage through these sites in the city. I do have some propagation maps to show on how the quality and overall coverage will be enhanced by adding these sites. And we can go from there. As far as the Mickelson Fields area goes, we did explore a couple of other locations within this area. It was quite restrictive in what was available. We explored the possibility of the Elzagal Golf Course as well as the Horseman Elementary School. Those were explored and ruled out as potential site locations for development. which left us with finding a good location in Mickelson Park. And then we took feedback from both the Park District and the city to come to the location that we're at. And just to show you here, these are coverage maps of what is current. You've got, on the left side, you've got the quality of the coverage in the area as it currently is, and then your overall expansiveness of coverage, kind of the overall propagation on the right side. So that's the baseline, and then after adding, you can see that it's being significantly enhanced by adding this site. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up for questions.
Sure. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant?
I have just a quick question. Are these three sites dependent on each other? Is it?
They are not dependent on each other.
Okay.
They are all part of the same initiative, which is the FirstNet Emergency Response Systems Initiative within AT&T.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I'm not entirely clear actually about the exact location of the tower. Sorry, but is it up against the levee?
So it is. It's not up against the levee, but it does technically border the levee easement. It's not within an easement. We did receive easement data and have the site location moved off of the levee easement. So.
And I think that was the change for your laydown.
Correct. That's the change that was made and submitted today.
Yep. Any other questions?
Was a stealth version considered for any of these locations due to their location in the park?
One additional consideration that we had with the Park District in initial discussions and are shown on the site plan provided is the addition of lighting for the sledding hill. We know that, or been told that there are kids that come and sled there in the wintertime, and having some additional lighting for the hill would be helpful per the Park District. And so we will be adding those lights, so that will be a value added to the park.
Well, what about towers that might resemble trees? I know those are popular in some areas. Is that an option here?
It is an option. It's not something we've seriously explored, given there's not requirement for it within this area. Obviously, the Planning Commission can make the decision that they would like to see it required for the area, given its park. And it's kind of up to you on what you'd like to see. However, in my experience, given having light poles and such in that area, it tends to blend in. That monopole structure will tend to blend in with those light poles reasonably as it stands.
Will the park district have a say in what type of fence or what the outside surrounding this will be, or what it looks like, and
Yep.
how it's okay?
Yeah, and we're in the preliminary designs of the overall site. If there are aesthetic enhancements that need to be made, those adjustments can be made.
I was just going to add, I think it's important that this is in the context of ball fields. We've got kids playing there, we've got kids running, et cetera. I think that we do need to be thoughtful of what the aesthetics are, what how we create some kind of softness around them, because we're gonna have the little kids playing in this area, right, that are supporting their big brothers and sisters playing in the ball fields. I think we need to be thinking very seriously about what the landscape wants to be around this, so that we start to create some actual intentionality around screening these. I get, nobody really wants one of these towers in their backyard. Nobody wants it on their property. I get it, and I think we all recognize there's a reason for them, and we're not thinking about that. But how can we still integrate them in a beautifully thoughtful way and not just be like, okay, yep, let's just put a tower up, right? Like, let's take the time and make the intentionality to make the right decisions and how we blend it in, and to ensure that we're creating a safe environment for the kids that are playing there. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you very much, unless you have anything else you want to add. Okay,
That's all I have for that.
perfect. Let's go ahead and open up public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? I just ask when you get to the podium just to state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak on this issue. I'll admit, I kind of was hoping this was an April Fool's joke. My name is Dana Woodruff, and I live in Building 746 Elm Street North. I'm about as close to that tower as it's going to get, except for the children that sled down that exact little spot that they want to put the tower on. That tower is going to be 3 to 4 times taller than my condo building. It is going to be twice as tall as the existing light towers. Regardless of how it's painted or what aesthetics you try to do, it is going to block the sky. It's going to block the view. And this is a park. And it's a park that is for the general public. Specifically, there were some comments about the sledding hill. Even though the sledding hill is technically on the east side of the levee, because that's really fun and a little steeper, the smaller kids use the west side. So that is basically going to disappear for them with the addition of this. The Park District has already done a lovely job with lights along the bike path, and for the sledding hill, they put hay bales up every winter to prevent children and adults alike from sliding into those light posts. You can't really see them in any of the pictures that I've seen in the presentation, but there is lighting. But mostly, really, this is, for me, this is a park. And when we look out over parks, what we want to see is the river, and we want to see trees, and we want to see ballparks, and we want to see playground equipment. What we really do not want to see is a 120-foot cell phone tower, along with the attendant buzzing, and I know everybody will swear up and down that there's not going to be any noise, but we know that that's not true. This removes this, it degrades the park. And that is desperately what I do not want. This is a city of parks. The cell phone tower, fortunately, cell phone coverage is just fine. I've never had trouble. But let's find an alternate location for it where it is not a city of parks and cell phone towers. Please, I implore you to disapprove this particular site location. And I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any boots on the ground kind of questions for folks that live in the area. I know I have many neighbors here as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Go ahead. And maybe if anybody else wants to speak, if you could kind of be at the seat ready next, that would help us. Thank you. And just state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Dawn Nygaard. I live at 1102 Oak Street in Fargo. So I'm on the corner, right? You see 11th and Oak right there at the corner. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as well as I am the co-president of the Horace Mann Neighborhood Association. And I agree with everything that the lady said before. With the younger kids, they always stay on the dry side of the dike. It is way too steep on the wet side. So sledding hill for them, just that is not for the little kids. And Mr. Kress, you talked about the site moving. Can you tell me again how far it's moving?
Yes, ma'am.
I think I misunderstood you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, go back to my site plan here. So in the original site plan, I guess I didn't put the original one on it since it moved. This is the tower site here, and that was lined up with the peak of this little road here, and it moved over here. It's about 29 feet to the west. So it was formerly right about here and moved over to the west.
So it's now blocking the walking path.
Please direct your comments to the commissioners, ma'am. They'll ask me if they have questions.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So our role as a neighborhood association is to support neighborhoods, to look at issues that we see come up. And this is one thing that we do as an issue. In looking at the Park District notes, I see that they will be making $1,200 a month, and that will go up 1.5% per year for a contract of 25 years. So not a lot of money. The downside for us is that what I have found in looking at an article found in the Journal of Real Estate Finance and Economics, residential properties facing towers will have an impact, a deficit impact of 9.78%. I will be facing the tower. I will lose over $20,000 if I sell my house based on this. So we're taking the average cost of the house in North Fargo on Oak Street, $200,000. We're above, we're below. So we're looking at that. That's a big hit. We are a core neighborhood. We are supported by the city and looked at as a core neighborhood, and this is a huge impact to us as we're looking to vitality in our neighborhood. Who's going to buy our houses that go up for sale knowing you're going to lose money based on that? And I do enjoy looking at the parks. I can see Jack Williams. I see, it's actually Michelson, is how you pronounce it. I see Michelson. I don't want it to change. So I agree. And I know it does have a recommendation to approve. We are asking that that be looked at again and not approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Go ahead. Just state your name for the record.
My name is Teresa Nightingale, and I reside at 2 North Terrace North, which is one of the condominium buildings that you could see in the background of Mr. Kress's presentation. And I agree with everything that has been said by the speakers before me. I would also like to raise the issue, and I acknowledge that this is unsettled science, but I would like to raise the issue of the potential health risk from radio frequency radiation exposure. The tower is going to be in immediate proximity, as we've stated numerous times, of a playground, a sledding hill, ball diamonds, all of that sort of thing. The science on the potential harm is unsettled, but there is research that shows that there is a problem, and especially with children who will have a lifetime of exposure as opposed to people our age who got to go through many decades of our lives, lacking that exposure. So I'm a little bit mystified as why this would be chosen for the placement of a tower. And I would also like to make the point that companies like AT&T disclose that this is an uninsurable risk to their shareholders, but they aren't open about it, I would say, with the general public. So if if $1,200 a month to the Park District is the sole benefit to the city, the Park District, whomever is benefiting from this, I'm a little mystified as to why we would make this trade-off with our property values and the potential health risks. Another thing I think with the RF radiation potential is the concentration of wildlife down there. Birds, bats, deer. Mostly we love them. Sometimes we don't when they're eating our flowers. But this to me is just not a viable trade-off. And I would like to understand how homeowners will be compensated. To me, the risk and reward or the pros and the cons to this just don't weigh out very well at all. So therefore, I appreciate the city taking their time to listen to us, and I also appreciate your consideration of the tower at Michelson Field. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I just want to clarify, commissioners, that we're approving the height and not necessarily the site plan. So the site plan is, it'll go through building, it'll go through the normal permitting process. So we're not approving the site plan, particularly the height. See the conditional overlay, right? That's what's in front of us today, right?
Conditional use permit.
Or conditional use permit, yes.
And ma'am, if I just make the point.
No, absolutely.
I'm not looking at the federal regulations right now, but the Federal Communications Commission deals with the radio part of this. So we're just making a decision, your commission is making a decision on the land use.
Yep, thank you.
ma'am.
And also opportunity as we go through land development code rewrite, right? And what is it that we would like to see? What is it that we would like to approve by right? What does that look like? And we have an opportunity to kind of look at that as we go through the code too.
Madam Chairman, I think that's an important piece, that this is a matter of balancing land use and benefit. And a prime example for us of what we could look for in that land development code around what standards do we want to have. I think this particular situation with this location and this height is as good as we're going to be able to come up with as well. If we look at areas to the south, to the west, the alternatives would be really in the residential area. So I know it does certainly change a view, but it's going to change a view no matter where it is. And I think on that map we had a 406-foot distance from Oak Street, right? So this is a rare opportunity to have a tower of this height with, I think, a minimal amount of impact as part of that balance.
Question for Donald. What is the required distance of a tower from the nearest residential property, and how far away is this tower?
Twice the height of the tower, 200 feet or twice the height of the tower, so in this case it'd be 240 feet. And the condos are a little bit, are over that. They're not a lot over that, but they're over that.
Any other questions of Donald?
So I guess I want to just make sure I'm crystal clear. The ability to impact whether or not we like it being on the Park District land is not part of what we can comment on or should be commenting on, correct?
So it is the location, but I just want to say the site plan, right?
Right.
That is not 100% correct?
Yeah, so we just make that clear to the applicant that just because if your commission would approve that CUP, they still have to go through a site plan process. So that, like we talked about with our engineering and the distance to the levee there, that might move a little bit, but it can't move a lot because, as Commissioner Glei said, there are setback differences, distances that you can't violate. So as long, it's pretty close there. but they will have to go through that. And then, ma'am, may I just add?
Absolutely.
As you see, there are no conditions on this conditional use permit, but your commission may wish to add
Correct.
some. You can do that.
Yep. You can add, yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna unfortunately take a little different perspective than you are. Our parkland is precious, right? We don't have, I would say in Fargo, we're blessed with a lot of parks, but we also know we've only got so many at the moment, at least, right? And the idea of negatively impacting parkland, I think, is a big deal, right? Especially if we're talking about a specific parkland that we know is very activated by children. It's not theoretical, like it happens now. I used to live in the Roosevelt neighborhood. My kids slid there. Are there other site options? You mentioned that you had looked at some other sites. The fact that you looked at a elementary school, not gonna lie, that kind of like concerns me. But are there other sites that could be appropriate that wouldn't be right in the middle of the kids' ball fields? That's not right next to the sledding areas. And maybe there are no other options. I don't know. But I feel it's worth asking that question.
They did say that they looked at El
so that-
Lago and Horace Mann when they presented. So if you have,
And is that all that's available, right? I don't know, and I'm asking a question, but, and I don't know that it'll go anywhere. But as, you know, somebody with the voice to be able to say, is this the right spot? I'm not convinced that there aren't other locations that could still be a better outcome for the community.
Nicole?
When it's appropriate for your discussion, I may suggest you bring the technical experts back to the microphone, because I will say the north side is really limited in coverage. When the water plant consolidation, or when the water tower consolidation happened, there was a lot of cell phone coverage or cell tower coverage on those water towers that got consolidated. And so whether it's Verizon, AT&T, the other companies, it's probably a recurring annual discussion of hunting for locations. And so I don't think this site would come in front of you if it wasn't a limited site. So it might be worth having that technical discussion or continuing the item for that aspect.
And I would say too, part of our brown bag probably coming up on April 15th or 16th, whatever, we'll bring you through the process of what an application goes through and what planning really looks at with the applicant, looking at the sites, how much work is done on that. And so when it comes to us, you know, what is our understanding of what they're going through that process? So that might give some clarity too for new commissioners.
And I'm not questioning, you know, the planning department's process or anything like that. I'm just, as a citizen, just questioning, is this the only option? And it very well may be.
Would you like me to bring the applicant back up to ask questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just state your name again when you, thank you.
Hugh Bielko, working on behalf of AT&T. Yeah, for this site area, we did thoroughly scrub through the area that AT&T does need coverage for. And the reason we mentioned the elementary school is because it's specifically, it's nothing having to do with that we wanted to put it there. It's just there are only limited properties within the search area that we were given that could viably meet the zoning ordinance of the city for erecting a tower. So specifically setbacks from residential or parcel lines. And so, yes, Mickelson Field area was targeted as the only option. As Donald said, there is a Verizon tower site a little over a quarter mile to the north on Jack Williams Stadium, and that was built as a light standard pole. And is not viable for co-location because it's a stealth tower. It's basically a thinner pole designed to look more like a baseball field light and cannot handle further antennas on it.
A question I have for you, why the 120 feet? We had an applicant a couple months ago, I believe their tower was 79 feet. Me personally, I would be much more comfortable if it was, right around 80 feet and more stealthy than what you have proposed now.
Sure. So as far as that goes, now, one of the big things is we as was mentioned before, we have AT&T's radio frequency engineer from the area here, Scott Kasprick. He's the one that's provided the detailed analysis on propagation and coverage requirements that AT&T is looking for. And 120 feet is really the minimum amount necessary to be able to provide, to fill as much of the current coverage gap as possible.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we know what?
I'll make a motion to approve
We have
staff recommendations.
Awesome. We have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion, commissioners?
I'd just like to say that, me personally, something this size, I don't agree with at this location. I do believe that, how you quantitate or how you determine what the value would be for these homes around here with a new tower, it's hard to judge, but there is an impact to value that does impact those homeowners. And also that, this is a park area. If they want to put something here, in my opinion, they should, go all out and try to do, a stealth style tower, something short or something that blends in so it's not an eyesore to the community.
I would say the same thing. If we are going to approve it, can we at least, you can see pictures online of cell towers where they actually do somewhat resemble trees. And putting that in the cup that they have to do that, I feel like that would be a better alternative than just letting them build it outright, if we have the power to do that. As a
Yeah,
condition.
we can change the motion and add to it. But now that we have a motion on the table,
I think it was the height that was a lot of the concern too, not, the biggest concern, I believe, from the residents just saying, but yes, yeah.
From my perspective, this is a kind of issue that is really difficult because I certainly understand the concerns of the neighbors. Looking at the map with the colored map, there is no other, I'm totally ignorant about the technical requirements, but looking at the map, there would seem to me to be no other location where a cell phone tower could go. We could put it over in Minnesota, I suppose, but over there, there's a park next to a residential area, so it's the same problem across the river. Cell phone towers are just really necessary, in my view, and if you think back a number of years, especially looking at the Horace Mann and other neighborhoods, the idea of a telephone pole, that every street was lined with telephone poles with wires and wires and wires, a horrible aesthetic blemish on all older neighborhoods. And so the trade-off is now that we have cell phone towers that have their own aesthetic shortcomings, but certainly it's a lot better than what the landline alternative was many years ago. And so I would say, in my view, there is no other location where this tower could go. It's up close as possible to the river, as far away from Oak Street, I think, if I'm reading this correctly, as possible. And it's the best, in my view, among a series of undesirable alternatives.
You know, there had been mention that there was another tower that's not designed to be able to co-tower. Is there any opportunity to rethink that? I know that's existing, that's built, but is there any way, instead of putting another tower up, couldn't that one be reimagined, redesigned, so that it could be a co-tower?
That'd be a question for the applicant, yeah.
Can we, so what are my options here? Because we have a motion on the table and we are discussing possibly making changes to the motion. So,
I'd say to see if you can vote on the motion
Okay.
that you have on the table.
okay, yep, let's go ahead and take roll, see where we're at, and then we'll go from there.
Cecil,
No.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Mose,
No.
Betlock,
No.
Shui,
Aye.
Glai,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Georgiou,
No.
Tassa.
Aye. Motion carries. Correct? We just need one over? Okay. Anybody want, I mean, I think this is good discussion for a land development code, right? And what we would like to see. I think also when we meet on the 15th or 16th to understand, you know, what would you like to see in applications? Would you like to see in something like this, you know, proposed sites that, you know, went through the process that they looked at? I think it's all good discussion on how we look at applications and what we want to see going forward at the land development code.
Madam Chair, now that you've made your decision, we need to, as Mr. Mormon did, read this part. The Planning Commission is the final decision maker for conditional use permits. Any appeal of the Planning Commission decision goes to the City Commission. Pursuant to Land Development Code Section 20-0903B, Bravo, appeals of final decisions must be filed within 10 days of the date of the decision. The date of the decision is April 1st, 2025. 10 days later is the 11th.
Thanks, Donald. Bravo. Were you in the military?
No, I got it from you, ma'am.
We thank you very much for speaking and coming to tell us your thoughts and share your thoughts. Okay, so now that we go into 7, give us a brief
Yes, ma'am. Thank
overview
you.
of that tower.
So this is another telecommunications support structure here, located in Section 22, Township 140 North, Range 49 West. This is North Dakota State University property here up off of 40th Avenue North. You may recall the Interstate Business District subdivision we did up here a little while ago. This is City of Riley's Acres extraterritorial jurisdiction. This is what the site looks like. If you've been up there, you've probably seen these small buildings. I believe they're used for weed science research. They do have a little meteorological tower and their own NDSU tower here as well. Again, looking at this here. The zoning there is PI, public institutional. Here, again, temporary and permanent towers, but the sites are located one right behind the other. This is the temporary tower site. Here's the permanent tower site. Again, pretty much the same temporary and permanent towers that were on the other one there. And this is an example of an existing site in West Fargo. Rather than a photo sim of that site, they provided this. This looks like out there. Again, the same situation here. The maximum height allowed by right in PI zone is 50 feet. The requested height is 120, or is less than 125. So it's between 50 and 125, the requested height. So they can receive a conditional use permit for that. As you'll see in the recommended motion, there is one condition on this. That is, the applicant must provide documentation of the Federal Aviation Administration approval for the tower height prior to the installation of temporary and permanent towers. Since this is near the airport, the Fargo Airport Authority, the Executive Director, Mr. Dauberstein, is on our circulation for this review, so he did request that condition be added, and I believe the applicant has that in process as well. So the recommended motion here is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen, and here again, Mr. Bialka is available to make any presentation on that I'm not aware that there are any neighboring property owners here to testify, but there may be, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Donald. Commissioners, any questions for Donald?
I did have one. It looks on the drawings like there is an additional space for additional companies to be on this tower.
Yeah.
Is the same requirement where they're allowed to have?
Yes,
two
they're
engineers?
required to do that.
That's still
sir.
on here
Yeah.
no matter what. Okay.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's part of the ordinance.
Any other questions?
Donald, do you know how far this tower is from 45th Street and start of the residential area for Riley's Acres?
It's more than a third of a mile
Should be a
from
lot, yeah.
residence,
Okay.
from Riley's Acres. And it's, I think, almost 0.9 mile from that other cell tower that's out there.
Thank you.
Donald, you said the allowable height at this location is 50 feet?
Yeah, well, in the PI zone. It's the same as the other one, yeah. So the allowed by right height is 50 feet. And if you're going to be between 50 and 125, you can have the CUP for that.
Okay, thank you.
So it's the same regulation on both of these. And this one is, just to clarify, this is owned by NDSU, not the Fargo Park District.
Any other questions for Donald?
Where's that other tower at? That you said is a third of a mile away? Is that just north, right off?
Let me show you here, sir. Oh, no, it's the Riley's Acres. Here, let me just go back to the map here. So, the Riley's Acres residential area will be here. Well, it's under the R here. But that tower, you might remember that one from when we were doing the Interstate Business District. It's way up here. That's the nearest tower.
Okay.
So it's quite a ways away. I think that's noted in your staff report as well. So, yeah, the nearest TSS is 0.9 mile away.
Any other questions for Donald? Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant? Should we bring him up, or are we good? We're good? Do you have anything to add? Would you like to?
Not necessarily. Actually,
Okay.
Ubielka, working on behalf of AT&T. I did just want to make comment from our initial conversation just about these sites as a whole in being priority sites for AT&T, and as we are seeking to have both temporary sites and long-term telecommunications site developments. And that's particularly to get sites on air quicker with these temporary site locations. And I wanted to open up for questions if you did have any on the temporary site developments, as Donald brought that up as, possibly having questions. Just to let you know, those temporary sites are erected, that they can be installed in roughly a day. They're installed by crane, and they're ballast mounted, so they do not penetrate the ground. And then they would stand until the long-term permanent sites were integrated and on air, and then they would be taken down.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I just had one quick question, maybe a little bit out there, but you guys, is the max that you guys are allowed to have 3 companies on one pole? Or if you guys go bigger, are you allowed to have more companies on the same pole? You guys can lease them out. I'm wondering if we find a spot that is suitable for these, make them big enough so they can handle all the companies, so we're not putting them every quarter mile in Fargo.
Right. So I believe the ordinance requires it to be co-locatable for at least one other carrier.
I'm wondering what the max is,
So basically the way that works within the tower industry is, working within the ordinance of the city. They can, it basically gets down to what they say is a marketable tower height for co-location of antennas from other additional carriers. And so a tower will be built co-locatable if the ordinance requires it. Whether it's marketable or not for those carriers is kind of based on the height that's allowable for that tower within the area. And it would basically be up to that carrier on what else was available per the ordinance.
Okay, and these towers are only allowing one additional company from what you guys are building, is that correct?
So
Supposed to have up to two?
It depends on which tower site. I believe we're building these for two additional co-locators.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and open up public hearing. Go ahead. State your name for the record.
Dana Woodruff, and I ask this because this tower is apparently going to be the same as Mickelson. That was a horrifying photograph. But on this temporary one, because that's going to be at the recycling center, I'm curious as to what the height of that is, because that is well within 200 feet of my condo. But my second bit is, and Briley's Acres does look like a more remote site, but I guess I don't, and this is a question for the commission, I don't, why is it predetermined that we have to give AT&T 3 towers? But that's just a question for the commission that I'd be curious for an answer on. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, we will close the public hearing. Commissioners? What are
I'll
your
make a
wishes?
motion to approve staff findings, using staff findings.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Actually, I have a question for Donald. Would you anticipate in the future other carriers wanting more cell phone towers in the city?
Commissioner Gley, I'm not familiar with the cell phone tower industry. Can't answer that question with any knowledge. I don't know, Mr. Williams, do you have any background on that?
We did put, when did we put one up, NDSU? That one we put up,
So that was a couple of years ago. That's actually, as I understand it, a
Temporary,
temporary
right?
tower that is also an AT&T, and will that one get replaced by this one?
so, yeah, before you guys,
Oh, it's okay. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of it.
yeah, so before, we did put a temporary up by NDSU, so that one will come down, this one will go up. Yeah, so we've seen one other one.
Yeah,
I think this is third I can recall
Yeah.
in
yeah.
3
So,
years.
ma'am, so I just,
Commissioners, I imagine that with Commissioner Shuey's point, that we'll be looking at this in totality with the new code. Most of these ordinances were written from, 1980s, 1990s technology, and, with small cell and other federal standards, really the distance was based on fall risk, not on anything else. And so it's way back when, and so I think there's a lot of new technology that's in the place. I will just say Northside is extremely limited in coverage, and locations and feasibility on where those could go on the north side is really limited.
Thank you.
ma'am, just for your background, I look back in the last few years, we've only done 8 of these in the last few years. It seems like a lot of them, but there's only been 8 of them. And it's just a coincidental thing that they applied, that these applications, all 3 came at once. They could have come individually, but they were all prepared at once and
Sure.
came forward at once.
Any other questions for Donald, commissioners?
I was just gonna say, I was just in Phoenix and I saw their towers that look like the palm trees, and right now with it snowing outside, that would be a really nice aesthetic we could incorporate to kind of give us hope. Yeah, all kidding aside. I appreciate the fact that we're thinking of these where you can co-locate another company's, equipment on the tower. I'm just questioning, are we, right? I hope that we are, and I hope that we're maximizing it so that we really are minimizing all of the towers and maximizing the impact of any of the towers that are being put up, so.
Yes, ma'am, the planning department of the city doesn't control that,
Yep,
though. So that,
understood.
as Mr. Bialka explained, that's a marketing thing. We require, as shown in your findings there, the ability to locate at least one other telecommunications provider. And there is no maximum set on here. Again, that's made by the carriers themselves. So,
I'm appreciative that the land development code conversation is happening, because this is perfect timing.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Let's go ahead and take the roll.
Mose,
Aye.
Georgiou,
Aye.
Shuey,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Cecil,
Aye.
Glidey,
Aye.
Betlock,
Aye.
Tasa,
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 8, the Rose Creek Golf Course.
Rose Creek Golf Course Annex Edition. We are not annexing anything today. That's just the name of that addition. Again, a conditional use permit for overheight telecommunications support structure. This is in the LI, Limited Industrial Zone, so this one can be taller. Site here is the Fargo Park District South Maintenance Facility. This is Rose Creek Golf Course. This is the site maintenance facility here. And this is University Drive. This is what the site looks like. There is an existing tower on the neighboring property. In this case, our clustering wants them to be close together. So they're in a bunch. And then here is on the site, it's back here. This is in the yard there. These stakes are just there for something else unrelated to the cell phone tower. That's just something that the Park District is working on. So again, limited industrial zoning. Again, here this temporary and permanent sites are right next to each other. They show us here on the site plan some existing pergolas. Those are these right here. I think they're just stored there. I don't know that they're really used there. Again, this tower is a taller tower. That's 145 feet. Temporary and permanent. Here are the before and after. This is the existing tower. Here are the before and after photo simulations. This recommended motion here also has a condition on it. Since in the limited industrial zone, there is no maximum height stated. It's just if it's over 125. So here we've capped it at 150 feet. In the PI zone ones, the maximum is 125 feet. That's built into the ordinance, so we didn't specify a height. So again, this is a Park District owned property, not a recreational facility on the site there. It is next to the golf course, but the site itself is a maintenance facility. So that concludes staff's presentation for item 8. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks, Donald. Commissioners, any questions for Donald? No questions? Do you have any questions for the applicant? No? You have
I
anything?
do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and we'll invite the applicant up.
I guess my main question is just, we've gone from 125-foot towers to now 150-foot tower. Is that additional 25 feet really a substantial coverage boost, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it?
Do I need to state my name again? Hugh Bialka, AT&T. So, yes, there's a significant, every foot higher constitutes more coverage for the area, and because antennas are, they're array-based, and it's all line-of-sight based. So if it's all based on, if the antenna can provide coverage, it needs to be able to see it. If it's hitting anything, the signal will get dispersed. So that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you. Unless you have anything else you want to add.
I mean, I could add in, you know, we did explore co-location on the existing tower that's adjacent to the north, and it was unfeasible based on that tower being put in, I believe, in 1999, and the current property owners kind of built their contractor operations around this tower site. When we got into conversations with potentially expanding the compound or ground, their lease area, they were unwilling to provide that lease area within busy operations on their lot. So that's why we're proposing this additional site and clustering it per the city's ordinance, being within 300 feet of that tower.
Any questions? No, thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead and open up public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this item? Anybody wish to speak? Seeing none, let's go ahead and close the public hearing. Commissioners?
What's the height of the existing tower?
Let me see here if I have that on here.
Just curious.
Is it? No. I don't have that in front of me here, ma'am. That was permitted before there was the current land development code currently. What the applicant said there is, I went back and looked at the history of it. I think that might have been before it was within the city limits too, but it was before it was the current land development code. So I don't have any documentation on it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'll move to accept staff findings.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion, commissioners? Okay, go ahead and take the roll.
Betlock,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
Cecil,
Aye.
Shui,
Aye.
Rosenberg,
Aye.
Glidey,
Aye.
Mose,
Aye.
Georgiery,
Aye.
Tassa.
Aye, motion passes.
Madam Chair, just one more time to read for the record here. For all these CUPs, the Planning Commission is the final decision maker for conditional use permits. Any appeal of the Planning Commission's decision goes to the City Commission pursuant to Land Development Code Section 20-0903B at Bravo. Appeals of final decisions must be filed within 10 days of the date of decision. The date of decision is April 1st, 2025. That deadline would be April 11th, 2025. And anyone who wants to appeal, just contact the planning department. And well, there is no fee for appeals.
Thank you, Donald. I just, again, want to thank the public for your input. I think it's, we take your input very seriously and weigh what your comment is in addition to balancing infrastructure. And I think we do have a really good opportunity with the land development code, and all this is very helpful for us as we go through that rewrite. So thank you very much. We have a birthday. Happy birthday to you. And then also be looking for Mark or Nicole, do you want to say anything about April 15, 16?
No, I'll just send a doodle poll email out, and we'll look to see who we can get the most attendees from. And so look for that email, hopefully by tomorrow. Yeah, probably by tomorrow morning.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming, and meeting is adjourned.